Today on the Failing Up podcast, we have an interview with Dusty Oglesby, and we learn what failure means to Dusty and how to take those experiences to love us forward. Surround yourself with the right people, find your tribe, and how to have tough conversations.
All right, so welcome to the first episode of Failing Up podcast, Humble Lessons in Life and Business. I'm joined here by my amazing co-host, Dr. Lorna Taylor.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for joining us. And the
Glad to be
amazing Dusty Oglesby, brother. Thank you for joining us all the way up from Texas.
Yeah, come on. I'm excited.
It's a whole country down there.
It is. Yes.
And it's crazy how similar Texas is to Tennessee.
It is, man. Like, it's the one place that I come that I don't have to change anything. You know what I mean? Like, everybody understands they just understand my voice. Like when you ask for tea, they know that really means sweet tea.
That's right.
You don't have to explain it, right? Like, you don't have to order something separate.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good stuff, man.
Well, you're going to be our guinea pig today, right?
Okay.
Our first episode here with us. And so we want to talk to you a little bit about, you and I have had a long relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been an amazing coach and a mentor for me, right? And us for each other. I want to ask a couple of questions. We can go a little deep. And Dr. Taylor, help me hold him accountable to giving us transparency.
I got you.
Yeah.
We got tissues if you need. Don't worry.
Yeah, come on.
That's it. So first off, question. When you think of failure, right? And let me reset this to say that for the people listening, right? We want to really talk today about one, failures you've experienced genuinely, and then ultimately in the rearview mirror, what were you able to take away from that and learn?
Right.
And then I got some other questions for you. So let's define failure. What does failure mean to you?
Yeah. Well, so I would say my answer today is very different than my answer used to be, right? My answer used to be failure was, it was very personal, right? Like, man, like I blew it. This is on me. And I think our human response to that a lot of times is, like here in this room, I can say, hey, I've learned to draw the circle around myself and own me. Well, 20 years ago, Dusty didn't own Dusty very well, right? Like I was a really good blamer, right? And I think that's humanity 101, right? Like, sure. I don't want to own the failure. So I want to see where else can I draw my circle?
That's right.
And so what I would say today is defining it, and this has come through coaching and mentorship and learning, is that it really is an event, right? That every single one of us at this table, every single person out there listening, like the event of failure is going to happen. That's life 101, right? Like a lot of times the failure is, it is on us, right? It's a decision that we made or we didn't make, or a choice we made, or other times the failure comes from outside in, right? Like I didn't ask for it. It's not fair. It's not right. And yet it still is. And I think what I've learned in all that is that failure really is an event, right? I would say to anybody listening, the one thing I would trust and hope that you hear is you are not a failure, right? Like there's not a single one of us that are failures. We just experience failure. And I think the key is, what do we do with it?
That's right.
We learned from Gary Keller. He says, we're not failing. We're just learning how to succeed. The first time I ever heard him say that, I was like, I got to be the most successful dude on the planet, right? He just said, I'm learning how to succeed. I'm going to write a book on successful failure.
That's right. We're going to.
Right? Yeah. So, that's what I was saying.
I also think probably important to note that we live in an ecosystem, right? And so I had a very scarcity mindset prior to joining the KW world, right? And this isn't a Keller Williams podcast, but we've all learned a lot through the culture and environment that Keller Williams has created. Yeah. And I think that a lot of studies are going to show like that abundant mentality teaching that Keller Williams has taught us has had a huge impact. And so we can sit at this table and kind of talk about failure openly, but I know a lot of our listeners maybe aren't at that place in their life, or maybe haven't been surrounded by those humans.
That's right.
That have taught them how to cope with the emotion of it and cope with navigating through it and being able to kind of put it over here in a box. I think you're right. I think it does come with age.
Right.
I think about myself in my late teens and early 20s and just what a train wreck. As we kind of look at it and go, I'm sure we can unpack plenty of this and put me on the couch. But you do grow, I think, and able to look back. But then some of the lessons that you've learned just through the last 7 or 8 years of being in the ecosystem. How long have you been at KW?
12 years.
12 years. So what are some lessons that you've learned maybe that we could share for those that maybe don't have these conversations every day or haven't grown up in this environment lately?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest is, surrounding yourself with people that love you really well. And I think that was a big one for me. I did so much of life on my own leading up, and so much of my failures came because I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a clue, right? And so then I'd just shoot for something. Well, that didn't work, and then I'd feel terrible about myself or guilty or whatever, and then I would, seek to numb that, and then I'd fail again. And I just didn't have, around me, like you were talking about the ecosystem, David, of people that loved me really well. I also didn't understand what love me really well meant.
Yeah.
Right? I thought love me really well meant make me feel better about myself, right?
Yeah.
I think when we're in a victim mentality, we excuse the behavior, and so we it's confirmation bias, right? I start looking for people who are going to help me feel better about me, and
Yeah.
one of the biggest things I've learned around how to walk through failure, all the above, is finding people who love you enough to go. I'll give you a great example. 10 years ago in my life, my spiritual mentor sat down with me, asked me to go to lunch. And we went to lunch and we sat down, and I ordered and he didn't. And I thought, well, that didn't make any sense. You asked me to go to lunch, bro. And
It's like y'all's breakfast this morning.
yeah, I didn't understand, right? It was weird to me. And so I was like, hey, bro, you're not going to eat? And he said, I didn't come to eat. I came to talk. And then he said these words. I'll never forget. It was a defining moment for me. Like when we talk about failures, he looked me right in the face and he said, I want you to remember for the next 5 minutes that I love you, because it's about to feel like I don't.
Ouch.
That's powerful.
Right? I mean, that was,
Yeah.
it was probably one of the most profound statements and one of the most profound moments of my life, because it was coming in a season of failure that I had it was self-imposed,
Yeah.
right? Like I was walking in my own failure, blatantly making decisions out of failure. And he just looked at me, and that day loved me really well. And he said, I want you to remember that I love you, because it's about to feel like I don't. And then he leaned in and just said, he literally looked me right in the face and said, stop wasting my time. Like, you want to come to lunch? We'll go to lunch. Don't come in here and tell me you desire to be a certain level of a man and then blatantly walk out of here and not do it. Like, don't waste my time.
Yeah.
And he literally looked me again, just right in the face and said, you're a liar.
Well, we see that a lot in this,
Yeah.
right? And I think for the people out there that maybe don't have that ecosystem around them, right, or haven't
Right.
grown up, seek out. I think the difference, like, is somewhere along the way you kind of find your tribe, right? You
That's
find
right.
someone that loves you enough to have that conversation with you,
That's right.
right? And so, for me with purpose coaching, you have this experience that you can lean into, right? If you're feeling that void in your life of like, is this enough? There's got to be more.
Mhm.
I can't run the rat race every day, or I don't have an ecosystem of people around me lifting me up. It takes a lot of courage to step out and go and find new people to surround yourself with. But I know the people that I was hanging around when I was a teenager in my 20s,
Mhm.
I was absolutely on a path of destruction.
That's right.
Right. And I love my wife for, why she stayed with me. I have no clue. Right.
Mhm.
Like, just no understanding seriously of the stuff that woman went through to
Mhm.
tolerate me. And she loved me enough to drag me through it, and was, to this day, has been my champion.
That's right.
Has been there by my side to say, like,
That's right.
you can do this. Right. Like, I've got your back. We're going to do this together.
That's right.
I'd never had anybody do that before.
Right.
Right. And so when you have that person, if you don't have that person, you're listening to this, reach out, mychosenpurpose.com, find your tribe there, or
Mhm.
find people around you that can lift you up and support you in that. Right.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Because we weren't created to do this alone.
No, not at all.
Right? Any of us, right? Like
Right.
we weren't, right? I mean, like I think of Jesus himself, right? Walked around the earth with 12 people.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
That's right.
And I'm pretty confident he had it more figured out than I
Probably.
do. Right.
Probably, right.
And so, so I think that's, we weren't created to do it alone. So get those people who do love you enough to tell you the truth. And I always say too, David, like, get those people that, that just aren't impressed with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think about my bride there. I'm like, she loves me enough to tell me the truth, and she also just not impressed with me.
That's right.
Right? Like, she don't give me a high five because I took out the trash. She's like, You should, bro.
I'm jealous
Right?
you have people that are impressed with that. I don't have to look very far.
Right? Right.
Yeah. I'll
Dr.
walk
Lorna's like, yes, I tell Ryan all the time.
Every day.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. So you're in this season, right? Your mentor meets with you, right? Gives you some tough advice, some tough love. And you, like Dr. Taylor, where do you see that show up, right? You see the audio and video not matching a lot. As a father, I have 3 children. And so sometimes you see what their goals are not aligning with what their actions are. Right. And I think as a coach, a lot of times it's easier from the outside looking in for us to be able to say, like, all right, I see you say you want to do this, but your activities show me that you're going to do this, right?
That's
we were talking about goal setting earlier.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And the goal setting is such I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to do all this stuff.
That's right.
And then I go like, all right, show me the plan. And you got the plan. And then week 1, it's like, well,
yeah,
I thought I wanted to do it. Right?
That's right. Reality.
Where do you see that show up? I mean, as an educator, right? As a trainer.
I think it's interesting because I think a lot of folks, like you said, they have big goals and they'll even come up with a plan, right? And it's interesting when we're doing something like boot camp, right? Where we've got new agents coming in and they start knocking out the activities. I think when they hear something like boot camp or training, right? The idea is I'm going to come in, I'm going to get all these great skills, and then I'm going to go out there. And they get a little surprised when it's like, actually, we're going to do the activities now, like right now. And let's see what the results are, right?
That's right.
And sometimes it takes like a good week to come to terms with what that is, right? What that result is, what that looks like. Because there's a difference in the goal and the plan, what's actually happening. And I think that's actually, it can be a really bright light, right? Like this is, now you see the difference. You see the gap, right? Between the plan, the goals, and what's actually happening, which is really powerful because then you can dive in and say, here's where I need to fill things in, right? Like here's where I need to commit, or here's where I need to be in this place at this time and do this thing. And that can take you to a lot of great places over time. So I see a lot of new trainees coming in and, again, with great hopes and great dreams. And then when they start to apply it again, I think it's powerful to see what the results can be when they really apply those actions and activities to that. So,
confidence is a result of success, right? It's on the other side of the pain and the failure. And I see this in my children. We see it a lot as business owners, right? We see people that show up saying that they want to do certain things, but I sometimes take for granted now, right? After doing it, right, and growing up and building a confidence to it. Now I have no problem standing up in front of 1,000 people and making a fool of myself or making mistakes, right? Like I've learned to kind of embrace that. I watch it in my children where they're still, I want them to have that confidence to be able to do it, but it's a learned behavior. And you see people coming into your 6 L's boot camps and wanting to do that. But then when we say, okay, this is what it looks like. Let's go do the activities. And you see them like scatter and go hide behind a door, right? And they're like, no, I'm in here doing it. You see what I'm doing? I'm like, I don't think you're doing it.
That's right.
right. Like, I don't know that you're actually calling people.
They're making a fake phone call. That's what they're doing.
I see that a lot, right? Like,
no, it happens.
I'm scrolling. I'm looking for the people. And it's like, no, you're not. That's Instagram.
Yeah. Right? How about we just hit this one, right?
That's right.
Like I think it's the pain of the reality, right?
Sure.
Right. That moment with my spiritual mentor, it was the pain of the reality. I knew things had to change, right? And I think what we do, our human nature, right? What my human nature was that day is I stood up and threw my chair under the table and looked at him and said, you can't tell me what to do. Now, granted, I invited him to tell me what to do. Right? We come into a boot camp. They're inviting us to tell. They come into coaching, right? You're inviting us to tell you. And yet when the pain of the reality hits, my answer was like, I literally, this is comical. I looked him right in the face and said, you can't tell me what to do. I'm a grown man.
I'm a grown man.
That's what I said.
That's it.
Yeah. Now, granted, he like 6'3", I'm 5'6". Is a little right. I'm looking him eye to eye while he's sitting down, and I'll never forget this moment. He looked at me and said, "Brother, I don't see a man."
Ouch.
Right?
Yeah.
And I stormed out. I went into victim mode. Right. We get 2 options.
Yeah, we see that a lot.
Right. You can either be a victim or you can be accountable. I went into victim mode. I stormed out. Which is what I had done.
Yeah, it becomes a habit, right? It becomes a
right?
way that we react to certain things. We learn that we can, and you see it. It breaks my heart when I see it in people because they throw up this defense and they have all these reasons, right? And we talk about, I'm going to go do what I've always done because that's what's comfortable to me.
That's right.
They get in this pattern,
That's
right? And you need that pattern interrupt. And so I'd say, like, even when we do it sometimes and we cause that pattern interrupt for another human, it takes a lot of courage for us to do it. And I do believe at some point in your own deep heart, in your own moment, you looked at that moment and it made a difference.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it made a difference that day, right? Like I stormed out. I got out to my vehicle, and reality hit. Reality hit that he told me the truth. Nobody else had loved me like that, right? And so I had a moment. Am I going to keep this pattern that, right? I mean, like one of my favorite things to always think is, what benefit did I receive of the things I'm now ashamed of, right? So
let's say that again.
What benefit did I receive of the things that I'm now, that I'm now ashamed of, right? Like I look back and go, like, why would I do that? And it's just this cycle, this pattern that we get in. And so in that moment, it was a defining moment, because in that moment, I decided I'm going to walk through the pain of the process. And this is, I don't know if we're supposed to say this, but like, this is going to suck.
Yeah.
Right. This is not going to feel good. It's going to be painful.
Yeah.
And yet I wouldn't be sitting here today in this room had it not been for that moment. If I hadn't made a choice to go, okay, I'm going to step in and actually be accountable.
It starts with a single step, right?
That's right.
I think we can look back. The anticipation of the pain, the anticipation of the process probably isn't near as, it's hardly ever as bad, right? And then not to bring it back to business, but a small example, right? I mean, this last shift that we've gone through, we spent so much time worrying about it. And I look at like the relationships that it's created, the way that we've banded together to be able to pull agents through and able to help them build businesses.
That's right.
And you go like, it was this fear. And I think a lot of agents are still stuck in that fear, right? And it's the paralysis, right? Of rather than, inaction to them is somehow better than action, versus just owning the situation, realizing that if you lean into it and step into it. So in hindsight, 2020, where did that, I mean, it obviously brought you to here, but now you can probably look at it and go, okay, I understand that happened because it needed to take me here. Like, what did you, where did you go from there? Where did you ultimately end up that you can go like, had I not been there, I wouldn't have gotten here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, man, to think of where I am today, period, when I look at that, I think of it, Dave, like in, I view failure in moments like that, like watching game film, right? Like, I think that's how we learn from them is take ourselves out of it, right? And come up to like a 30,000 foot view and look down and go, okay, how did I get here? Right? Like, what did I do? What did I not do? What do I need to own? What's not on me? And then it's the continual though accountability from that, right? Like that one moment isn't what changed everything.
Sure.
That moment gave me the clarity of, man, I got to change.
It was a catalyst,
like
right?
now.
Yeah.
But then it was, now we got to go, just like you were talking about, Dr. Taylor, in boot camp or whatever it is. Now we got to go to the day-to-day work, right? And that's where the accountability comes in. To, anywhere we're not held accountable, we're going to be prone to wonder. Like that guy is still in me.
Sure.
Right? Like I could be that brother tomorrow.
Yep.
Outside of watching the game film and making sure that I get in relationship and alignment with people like at this table, right? To to help me through that. So so where did we go from there? It was stepping into that pain, and I would love to say that was the last moment we ever had a conversation like that, right? We've had other conversations, right? Where
I think your younger self starts to believe that that happiness in life is somehow avoiding that pain. Right. And there's a book that Gary has us read called The Obstacle is the Way, right? And a lot of the philosophical minds, right? And thinking that way. And we think when we're younger that somehow avoiding that pain is what success is going to be, or happiness is the avoidance of those painful situations. As a father, one of the hardest things to do is to allow them to fail, but knowing that if I save them from every situation, character is built in the failure moments.
That's right.
Right. And in order for them to develop as humans, they're going to have to go through some degree.
That's right.
My goal as a father has become, how do I just keep that degree from being so severe that it has some negative long-term consequence, right?
Right.
That it doesn't lead to alcoholism or drug abuse. It's not so emotionally impactful that they can't cope with it.
That's right.
But not saving them from every, you know, I mean,
Right.
You tell a great story. I won't rob you of it in this episode about your daughter.
Yeah.
But I love that from you about protecting her and wanting to protect her.
That's right.
And then
yeah.
allowing that to develop, right?
Yeah.
And allowing that to go. Can you share a little bit of that story with us?
Yeah, man. Because we, you know, I view, I view parenting, right? I've got 2 10-year-old twins at home. They're Caitlin and Grayson. We call them Scooby and Doobie. And you know, I'm their coach. That's what I am, right? I'm their coach, which means I'm like a coaching relationship, right? Is I'm responsible for your results, right? We're in this together. We're accountable together, right? The man and woman they become, I have a profound effect on. And so, so my daughter and I, we go to the daddy-daughter dance. We hadn't been, this was, after COVID, so we hadn't been in like 3 years, and we've gone since she was 3 years old. And so it's a big deal, man. The Oglesby house, we get dialed in.
I remember it.
Mama goes, gets her hair all professionally did, which, Dr. Taylor, I don't know how y'all get your hair all perfect like that, because, David's not allowed to take his hair off or his hat off, And this right here, this is called a cowlick. It's natural. So, but she got her hair all professionally did, in a dress and nails. I mean, she, and I remember telling my bride, I'm like, she ain't getting married. I didn't know it could cost that much for one little girl to go to
Something
a dance, right?
Do you just? I imagine you just lay on your pillow face forward.
Yeah,
and that's how the hair gets
this
there.
is it, bro. Like this is it, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, men wake up in the morning, Dr. Taylor, like y'all wake up in the morning and somehow y'all look beautiful, and then y'all go get more beautiful, right?
Yes,
but
believe that.
But like Huffaker and I, when we wake up, this is it.
That's it.
Like this is what you get.
Not a whole lot of improvement.
So I'm chasing it. But so we go to the daddy-daughter dance, and I did not realize until we got there that my daughter had. We put them in homeschool when the pandemic hit. We've continued that because they've really thrived. And we got there, and I immediately realized, like, my daughter doesn't know these people, right? Her friend pool is smaller, and she noticed. And so she was 9 years old at the time. She looks up at me, and this the mindset of a 9-year-old. Come on, write this down. She looks at me and she says, "Dad, I don't know anybody in here, and I'm so excited to meet them."
Isn't that awesome?
Right? Not
amazing.
Afraid, right? Just like, man, I'm so excited. And so we sat down. She ate faster than anybody. She didn't want to dance with me, Dave. I got over it. And and she started to, she said, "Can I go meet all my new friends?" And I said, "Yeah, go." So I just sat back as a dad, right, and watched my daughter. And they were, Dr. Taylor, I don't know if y'all know you do this, but girls have these little pockets, So, we're at a dance, and mind you, no one's dancing. All right, the dance floor is empty.
Of course.
So they're all in these little circle pockets, Dr. Taylor. And so like, there's like the little Miss Thang group. They're like, "No, we just, we're too good for you. You just keep on walking." And then there's the little choreographer group. They'd all doing their little dances. And then there was like, there were like a couple little shy girl groups that nobody was even talking, but they just felt better to be around each other, And so my daughter starts going to each one of these little circles. And I watch as she gets to the first one, they just shut her down. Like, little Miss Thang ain't having nothing to do with my girl. So she puts her little head down, walks over to the next group, raises her head back up, right? All excited. She's so ready to meet the choreographed girls. And they just shut her down, man, because she's too late. They already did the dance. And so she puts her head down and walks again. And she goes over to the shy girls, and they won't even speak to her because they're too shy, right? And so she works her way all the way around this room. And by the time she gets back to me, right, like I can see from a mile away, we got crocodile tears. We were upset, right? And I'm assessing the situation, right, Dave? Because Mama's not there. I'm like, okay, all right, come on. You can do this. We're going to be fine, bro. And she gets up to me, tears. And so I kneel down next to her, and I said, "Okay, sweet girl, tell me, like, what happened?" And she said, "Dad, nobody wants to play. Like, they all said no to me." And, and then in a 9-year-old voice, right, said, "They were so rude." And so in that moment, right, this is what we were talking about, Dave, like my dad heart kicked in, right?
Yep.
And I was like, "Oh no, girl, they will play." Right? Like, why don't you just come with your little 5'6" dad, and we will make
Send them over this way.
Let's just go to Miss Thang. All right. So that's what I wanted to do, right? But I realized in that moment that this is life.
Yeah.
This is failure 101, right? Like, hey, I set out to do it. It didn't go my way. And so in that moment, thankfully, I stopped and I coached her and I said, okay, I'm going to tell you one thing and I'm going to ask you something else. And I said, here's what I'm going to tell you. We're not taking our ball and going home, right? We're not going to quit. That's not what we do. You're an Oglesby girl. Come on now.
There you go.
And then I said, what are you going to do about it? And I sat back and I let the 9-year-old decide, right? And so in the middle of these tables, there's these massive balloons, man. You can imagine my daughter not real big, right? So there's these huge balloons, bigger than her whole body, and they got purple lights in them, helium balloons. She wipes her tears. She looks around. She says, Dad, can I have a balloon? And I'm like, yeah. And so I hand her this big, huge balloon. She turns around and she walks straight out onto the dance floor by herself, right? Nobody on the dance floor. She starts jumping up and down, right? Swinging it around. She threw in a ride the pony, man. And I'm in the back of the room thinking, oh no, right? Like it's this moment of, I'm so proud and I'm so scared for you. Yeah. And here's what happened. All the little Mustang girls were like, oh, wait a second. I'm going to get me a balloon. And they grabbed a balloon and went out on the dance floor. And then all little choreographer girls were like, oh, little Oglesby can dance. I'm like, yes, she can, right? She like Michael Jackson 101. And then all the little shy girls, man, they start peeling off the walls. And so before I know it, within 5 minutes, there is a full-on dance party in the middle of Stonebriar Country Club, right? And my daughter, like, it brings tears in my eyes, man. Like, my daughter's leading the way, right? Awesome. And, so in that moment, I called her mom and I'm like, we did it, right? Like,
not the worst parents ever.
We thought we fell every
That's
day.
right.
We got this right. But it really was. It was a moment where I saw, right? Like she got it, right? And so.
Well, I think we want to do that for our children.
Right.
So good for you for not jumping in and saving them, because it's a natural instinct, right? So I want to be cognizant of your time, man.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this before we go. A question I like to ask everybody: when you're on your deathbed, right? You're at the end, and you've had a glorious life. What do you anticipate will be your biggest regret?
Time.
What do you mean by that?
Time with my kids.
Yeah.
Time with my bride. Time with my kids.
Yeah.
Right. You can't get it back, right?
Yeah.
And that would be the biggest one. What have I missed? What moments? Right. It won't be money.
No.
It won't be business.
Yeah.
It'll be time. Right.
Do you ever think that, because ultimately I always look at that and I go, but I could spend every waking minute of every moment ever with them and I would still
never be enough.
It will never be enough.
Right.
And so, what do you do now in order to try to wire around that, right? In order to try to avoid that as much as possible, or do what you can today, knowing that that might be something that's important to you?
Yeah. Well, I think it's just alignment, right? Alignment in my heart, alignment in my head, recognizing, going back to purpose coaching, right? Like, why did we develop that? What's the purpose of purpose coaching? The purpose of purpose coaching is to understand, what am I here for? Like, what gets me up? What moves me? What stirs my soul and stirs my affection? And that be the number one driver of everything, right? Mm-hmm. Everything else stems from what's my calling, right? My calling is to be a husband, to be a father, to be a coach and a teacher and a preacher, right? I mean, how can I help as many people on this planet as I can, and understand that in doing that starts in my home, right?
Yeah, I love that.
That's the starting point. And if I ever lose that, then I got nothing to say, right? Because that's the starting point.
Yeah.
Guys, we hope this has been impactful for you. We hope you've gotten some value out of it, that you've taken away some snippets, enjoyed spending time with the amazing Dusty Oglesby, guys. If you want to learn more about purpose coaching, please go and check out mychosenpurpose.com. You can learn more about the amazing Dusty, his journey, what he's doing to help people uncover their purpose and walking alongside of them to lift them up. Stick with us. We'll be having some more episodes coming soon. Can't wait to talk to you.